Hey everybody, welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your very tired host, Gabe.
Konnichiwa. I'm Idris.
There we go.
Or Idris, depending on how you like to pronounce my name.
Right,
Both are fine.
right. Do you get people who say like Idris Elba, like almost like Idris Elba?
Yeah.
Like,
So, yeah, exactly. It's just because, so the name Idris, right? It's an Arabic name. It depends on where you're from, right? So, like, where my family's from, everyone says Idris or Idrisu. That's so I'm Idrisu, right?
Right.
But depending on where you are, there are like some Senegalese people who say Idris, and Middle Eastern folk will say Idris because that's how they pronounce it. So it's just kind of like whenever I meet
Or
people
how-
and they say my name, I can tell where they're from.
Or like my mom who just says Idris.
I've gotten that. So
Yeah.
I've gotten Israel, I've gotten Idrisi, I've gotten Asserti. Like the name is spelled like it's just pronounced how it looks, you know? Like
Yeah.
so shout out to all of you in the world who like look at a name and you give it a shot.
Yeah. It took I think like 5 or 6 weeks for my home economics teacher to not call me Gab.
No.
Yeah,
Are you
it got
serious?
to it got to the point to where even like when we were doing roll call, even like the kids who like or the teens who like didn't like me very much
Yeah.
and like we didn't get along, we're still sitting there like, okay, what's she gonna say? And then she said Gab, and then everyone's just like, oh my god, they're like, it's been 6 weeks, how are you not getting this? Like it was so weird. And
What?
like it took like everyone to be protesting and just like, it's Gabe G, and then just like, Gabe, I got you, okay, I got you, we got you. Like, you know, it was one of those things. It was so weird. I was just like, yeah, my god, it's not Gab. I've said this so many times, I don't know how I have to keep correcting you, you know.
Yo, in all the years of us being friends, like, and it's been a while. I think we've been friends since what, 2005, 2006, around
Yeah, it's
2006,
about
2007.
right.
Yeah, which is almost like 20 years. Like, which
Yeah,
is
you're
crazy,
right.
dude. What?
Right, it is
But
crazy.
this is my first time hearing that story. I did not like.
Mhm. Yeah.
Has she never seen the name Gabe?
I think what happened was she was a very prideful woman, and so I think what happened was like
Oh,
it said GAB probably mistyped on her thing,
okay.
and she just refused to kind of change it mentally, because she was
Mm,
definitely a kind of person. She was very much stuck in her ways and could not be incorrect
okay.
about like
Yeah.
anything. So, you know, so yeah, it was a whole thing.
Okay.
But anyway, one name that I think we can all agree that we all should know how to say because it is a
Oh man.
very fun name to say, and we should all
Mhm.
be saying it, and that is Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda.
Tsunoda. We are all
Um.
Tsunoda today. This
Oh
was
yeah.
what a
W-
race.
What's the name of his fan base? We need to figure that out.
Ooh.
Like, you know, like the Daniel Ricciardo has the Ricardos. Um, you know, I don't know what I thought like Lewis Hamilton fans are. I think they should be hammers. That's what they should be.
Yeah.
Um, but to think of Yuki's, you know, I thought
He likes
I
food.
like he does like food. But like I don't know, you don't want it to be too like weird or and like culturally insensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I like the sort of Yuki Tsunoda tsunami sort of thing because it's like a wave of
Yeah.
like, you know, but at the same time, somebody might look at that and think that's like I don't understand why, because tsunamis are not specific to Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that could be good, but I'm not sure. We'll have to think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Well, all right. So that will be the challenge to the Fufo fam, to all of you listening
Yes.
to this episode. What do you think the Tsunoda fan base should be called? And top postal or top response will get posted on our stories and whatnot.
Yeah. Shout out. Yeah. Well. Japanese Grand Prix.
It
We're here
happened.
already.
Yeah.
It happened.
Okay. So I forgot that it happened this early in the season.
Me too. I
Like
was like,
it took me.
Japan?
Yeah. I was like, isn't that usually like June or something? But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But here we are.
A lot of the commentators were like, yeah, I've never been here at this time of year. Look at all
Yeah.
these cherry
The
blossom
cherry
trees. It's
blossoms
like,
were beautiful. The
yeah.
sakura. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was fantastic. Um, yeah. Well, you know, honestly, going into this weekend, I mean, I think I don't know. I guess there was a lot of unknowns, right, about
Yeah.
what was going to go down. I mean, the Red Bull had a pretty terrible showing the last race. And everyone's expecting the Ferraris to be strong, but there were a lot of cars bringing packages here.
Hmm. Yeah.
I know Mercedes brought some upgrade packages. Apparently Aston Martin did, but I think I think Alonso had an incident that like damaged some of the components or something,
Hmm.
and so they had to switch back to like a B spec car. Um,
And yeah, I have a lot to say about that, given a
uh
specific radio message, but
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
talk more about that.
We'll talk about that, but yeah, but also Logan Sargent had a bit of a crash there in FP1, which is nervous. It's nerve wracking.
So,
Like it's just stressful to
and
watch a
the
Williams crash.
well, it's always stressful because anytime there's a yellow flag, you're always like, is it sergeant? Is it sergeant? Is it sergeant?
Yeah,
Especially during free practices. And I feel
yeah,
bad, but like that's kind of like the pattern that's been established, right?
right.
And I think, bro, I think the chassis is haunted, man. Like that, it's the same chassis that Alex Albon went off in Australia with, right? So he's using the rebuilt chassis.
Yeah,
So like the ghost of, I don't know, the ghost of someone scorned at Williams, which honestly might be a lot of people given given how
yeah,
given how that team was run back in the past. They're just all like, yeah, this chassis will not work. This chassis will not work.
yeah, yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I get. Well, like it's all. It's I guess you can only resurrect something from the dead so many times, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so eventually it'll just stop being a zombie and just turn into a
Hmm.
ghost. So yeah,
Yeah,
that tracks to me.
yeah,
I feel really bad for Williams every time they crash. It feels like this nerve wracking thing. It's just
yeah.
like, oh man, like that's going to be so much money that you don't have.
Hmm.
And poor Logan, I've never. There's been only been a few drivers that have been simultaneously like at the back of the pack,
Hmm.
but also like not particularly hateful of a person.
Yeah, he's actually
And,
a
and
pretty
it's
likable
weird.
dude.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I thought that I was gonna like really not like Logan Sargent, just because he was at the end. But like Logan is not a particularly mean spirited person. Like he's
Yeah.
not like like if something wrong happens, he doesn't freak out at the team. Like
Hmm.
I think he gets a lot of disappointment, but I think
Yeah.
ultimately he's just really happy for this opportunity still,
Hmm.
and so I think he's still kind of working with
Yeah.
it. So
And on that note too, I think that's actually why I like him. I think I find him actually pretty endearing because he knows his position, right?
yeah,
He knows that he is not like the lead driver on the team. He knows that he is pretty much on thin ice all the time, but he like always works hard, right?
yeah,
This past season, on the off season, he was like bulking up, working out, like working his mental game, his physical game.
hmm yep,
And I don't know, I really admire that, right? And he
yeah,
doesn't really get into like a whole lot of nonsense, right? Um, he seems to kind of keep his head down. And just unfortunately, his racecraft, like him being able to keep it on the track and eke the best performance out of it, leaves a little bit to be desired. But
hmm
you can still admire the guy for like, hey, you're working hard, you're doing the best you can, So
yeah. Yeah, no, it's kind of like Latifi. He's like
yeah,
Latifi part
it
two.
was it was the
Like
same. Yeah, yeah.
nobody hated Latifi.
Hmm.
He just happened to be in the back.
Yeah,
So like I feel like Logan Sargent's kind of getting that kind of rep again.
yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
shout out Logan. We like you, man.
Shout out Logan. Yeah, yeah. Logan Tsunoda.
Yeah.
Underdogs.
So, speaking of underdogs, these Red Bull guys, man, I hope I hope they can get a win eventually here because during
Yeah.
qualifying, man, I was really surprised to see them 1-2, Verstappen and Perez.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what was really funny too about the qualifying time. So, spoiler alert, Verstappen and Perez 1-2, so Red Bull
Mhm.
1-2 for the starting grid. And there was a 6 thou difference between Verstappen and Perez. And this is really awesome because to me, this kind of warmed my heart and made me feel like, okay, it seems like Perez is kind of getting into his flow. He's feeling
Uh-huh.
more comfortable with the car, more confident with its handling, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Perez for being able to just, showcase that in quality.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that transferred over to the race too. Before we hop into the race, anything you wanted to say about qualifying that was super interesting or that kind of jumped out at you?
Um, I I think the funniest thing for me was I was in the middle of packing up some stuff in the living room
Yeah.
and I had it going and at the end of Q1
Hmm.
there's like, oh, Lance Stroll gets knocked out of Q1. Oh, it's a shock. And I'm like, it's a shock? I'm like, really? You're shocked by that?
Nani?
Like, Alonso's up there in like P2 and they're just like, it's a shock for Aston Martin that Stroll is gone. I'm like, I'm not shocked. You're shocked. Like that was just, yeah, that was just like, I don't like, I don't, there could be reasons. I don't think there are reasons for this
Mhm.
outside of the fact that Stroll just cannot put the results in. Whether it's the car's problem, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just funny. I was just like, oh my god, it's like,
Is it?
it's just
What
like
a shock.
what?
What a
It's
shock.
what a shock that he's. I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm not shocked at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
McLaren's did pretty good. They were pulling. I'm judging how well qualifying is going by how big the gap is to
Mhm.
Max. So like, if
I
it's
love it.
like
I love it.
if it's more than 2/10, I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But if they're like only a tenth off, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, all right.
Okay, baby.
But like, he's like half a second. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I'm looking at qualifying now. It's just like it's my barometer. It's just measuring how
Mhm.
many tenths off of Max Verstappen's time is as everybody else, and does that mean it's going to be a good race or not?
Right. Right. Yeah, and the ones that always gets me is like the Ferraris and McLarens, like they're kind of like neck and neck, and it's
Mhm.
surprising. Um, I thought Ferrari had a little more pace in them, and performance in
Yeah,
that car.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, Norris was just he was throwing the hammer down, bro. He was like, mm-mm, not today. Sorry,
Right.
sorry, Carlos. You had your golden week last week, or last race, so it's all about
Well, yeah. I mean, well, to be fair, any race that Carlos does do pretty good is like a golden race at this point, knowing that he doesn't have a drive next year.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So like,
Mm.
it's just any performance that he does better than Leclerc. It's just like, damn.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Um,
we'll talk about that too. I have some
yeah. Well,
thoughts.
yeah. Let's talk about the race. Let's start with the easy one, Red Bull.
Yeah. Do you like that comment there?
Yeah.
So on our script, I typed up next time on Dragon Ball Z, I roll because like we know what's gonna happen next episode. We know Goku
Yeah.
needs to charge up. He needs to go Super
Uh-huh.
Saiyan. He needs to beat
Right.
Frieza. And then there's
Yeah.
gonna be like chess move, chess move, chess move, checkmate. Aha, you didn't know my trump card. And that's what Red
Yeah.
Bull is every single race.
Yeah, or like yeah, yeah, just like every episode is just the repeat of uh Vegeta going, he's over 9,000 and like crashing his, it's like, yeah, no, we know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? They didn't have a
yeah.
mechanical problem.
Hmm.
They just had pretty much control from the front
And
most of the time.
and I appreciate that the filming crew just focuses on the other battles. They're like, you're not even gonna. Oh, Max came in for a pit stop. Cool. All right. Cool. All right. It was a really good record-breaking Red Bull pit stop. All right. Let's
Mm,
focus on someone else. Right.
yeah, I
That
wonder
is
if
some
Max
real
is.
foresight there.
Yeah, I wonder if Max is salty about that. You know, like I wonder if that bothers him that like because
Yeah.
he's so successful and he's always up front that they know he doesn't get any. He probably doesn't care because he doesn't like
Yeah.
doing the Drive to Survive thing. So I don't think
Yeah.
he cares about being on camera at all,
Yeah.
which is so weird for a sportsman because so much part of what you're doing is the show of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
But yeah. The only other thing I'd add with Red Bull is just a throwback to what I said earlier. Perez, he did a great job throughout the race. He had some great overtakes.
mm,
He just seems really confident. He's just like in his bag. He's in his pocket right now. And it's great. That was a solid P2. I mean, he finished 12 seconds off the pace from Max.
mhm.
But it was a solid P2.
Yeah, isn't it weird that like having a solid P2 performance in most of these races is still not a guarantee they're going to keep your job? You know, I mean, like, because honestly, like, it's
It's
like what I
true.
think at this point, like, they're expecting him to beat Max on occasion,
Yeah.
and like that
Yeah.
would be enough for him to keep his job. But like, it just feels like every time Perez just keeps falling behind Max,
Hmm.
then that means that like, oh well, he's going to lose his job because
Hmm.
it's just like, wait a minute, like the dude's getting solid P2s
Yeah.
like every race, like. If Perez was like finishing fifth or sixth every time,
Yeah.
then yeah, that would be a problem. But like he's
Exactly.
right up there with them. Like Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird way that we're looking at it. Max is distorting a lot of what our normal notions about
Yeah.
F1 performance is, honestly.
And then on top of that too, the other question to be asked is, okay, if you're gonna boot Perez, who are you gonna bring up? You thought it would be Danny Rick, but right now his performance is not showing that, right? If
Yeah.
anyone, it should be Yuki. Yuki absolutely deserves
Hmm.
that. But at the same time, you're right. P1, P2 is great. There's no reason to why are we messing up this revenue stream?
This
You know what
time,
I mean?
yeah,
Like we
yeah.
get
It's
points,
like
baby. Like
yeah, it's like with Botas, except for with Botas and Mercedes, Botas is actually like winning races more often.
yeah,
So like, yeah, it was weird that they just dropped him, but I guess it's like when you're at the top, if your top guy is doing all the top things, and then you're just like you just want to mix it up, for the sake of whatever. I mean,
yo, this is have
I
some
guess that's what
fun.
happens, Yeah, they're just like, oh, we just want to try something different. It's like
But
okay,
why? Yeah,
um, yeah. Well, speaking of drivers needing to perform for their jobs, let's talk about Ferrari.
man.
Um, I Ferrari going into this weekend, not feeling too confident.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Charles had said something about how he went faster when he didn't think about what he was doing as much,
Mm.
which I think is a interesting thing. It's like, okay, well, all right, that's a
Okay,
that
okay, baby. Okay.
that's an approach, all right. But Carlos is just pretty much on it as much as anybody could possibly
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
So every time that he continues to just trounce on top of Leclerc,
Mm-hmm.
it just I'm sure it kind of stings at Maranello a little bit. You know,
Oh yeah, it's probably not good times over there right now. I think if I were Carlos, man, I would be if I get orders to like let Charles pass. No, I'm driving. Like,
yeah. I mean,
sorry,
there's
like we're
it's. I
friends,
mean,
but this is also my career, and yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think the worst thing that could happen was that he would be fired like halfway through the season if he was just like being too successful for
could you
them.
imagine? Would Ferrari? Do you
Um,
think Ferrari would do that?
I mean, if it was a big enough of a problem, like
Hmm.
if Charles and Carlos were both really competitive in relatively higher positions up the grid,
Hmm.
and Carlos was like, "No, I'm not going to let him pass me," and like they didn't touch, but maybe came close, then I could imagine Ferrari being like, I don't
Mm.
know if they'll do the Red Bull like swap out seats mid race. It does seem like something Enzo Ferrari himself would do.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but uh, it's tough to say. But I think that if that were to occur, I think it would not go down well in the paddock, and I think Carlos would
Hmm.
immediately have people being like, "Hey, race for us. This is what's going to happen."
Yeah,
So
yeah. I feel like the Ferrari of old that would happen. Like even as recently as like Maurizio Arrivabene, I feel like
mhm.
that would have happened then, but not in this current
Yeah,
era. I don't, I think yeah, Ferrari's just a little
yeah.
different now,
I think they
and for
know
the
that.
better.
Yeah, and I think they know he can put out these results. So
Hmm.
regardless of whether he's the top driver or not, I think they're still trying to show him, like treat him as though he is the guy that's bringing in all their points. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah, the last thing there too is just to note that Leclerc did have some touchy moments. He was getting a little squirrely with the car. And
mhm,
not as squirrely as some others. And
yeah,
that brings us to let's actually go talk about McLaren because I think that was actually a bit more relevant there. But
okay,
um, the McLaren boys, yeah, they threw down and yo, they know how to drive, both of those
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of time before we see a Norris or a Piastri win. I think they're
Agreed.
both capable of doing it. Like the cucumber like mentality that Piastri has, like the cold as a cucumber mentality that guy
Oh,
has.
I was gonna say, what's the cucumber mentality?
But you know what I mean? Like
Okay,
it's like
yeah.
he's just like he had like a little bit of a tussle with Russell, right? The
Oh,
Russell tussle, yeah,
A Russell tussle.
the Russell
Okay.
tussle,
Oh
and
shit.
he was just like, yeah, he squeezed me, I didn't have room, and he just kept driving, bro. Like he wasn't even like he wasn't shook,
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
not even phased in the least bit, right?
yeah.
And that was great to see. I really want to see what these guys look like after summer break when they bring like a big package, right? Like I want to
Mhm.
see the whole. We have circled the car in our upgrade documents that we submitted to FIA. I want to see that kind of performance in this car.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah,
be nuts.
yeah.
It's gonna be next level.
Right. Um, it reminds me of I was reading a little bit of Jensen Button's book, and one of the
Hmm.
things he talks about the qualities you need to be an F1 driver, and one of the qualities he says is that you need to be you need to be self. What did he the term he used? I think he said self confident,
Hmm.
or like basically he's like there's a difference between self confident and then being arrogant.
Hmm.
He's like a self confidence person. If you ask them, you know, are you the best in the world? They'll kind of wink and be like, I don't know, what do you think? And
Hmm.
then an arrogant person would be like, hell yeah, I'm the best.
Hmm.
Try and beat me.
Hmm.
And I think that it also applies to how you conduct yourself when like incidents happens, you
Hmm.
know, because an arrogant person would be like, how dare they try
Hmm.
to cross me, you
Hmm.
know, they just get really dramatic. And then
Hmm.
somebody who's just really self-confident is just like, ah, well, that sucked, but all right, I'm fine.
Yeah, we'll keep it
You know
moving.
what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
um
Yep.
and so and I think Piastri is definitely that. He knows that he has talent and he knows that he has skill, and he's
Yep.
not trying to inflate that in a way that just like kind of rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think he's playing the long game still, even being at McLaren. I think he's just
Hmm.
like trying to prove, hey, here I am. I know
I'm.
what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
know how I can conduct myself. Like
Right.
we'll get through this, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, with all that said, though, why did McLaren pit Norris at the exact same time as Leclerc? I think it was in the middle of the race somewhere. Um, that was like bag fumble there
Yeah,
completely.
no idea.
They
No
should have
idea.
just gone the opposite, right? You always go the opposite.
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
depends on the track, right? If you're going for the undercut or not. But like, you just Norris ended up in a worse position, right? Because Norris was following Leclerc. Leclerc comes in, Norris comes in. Ferrari pits, McLaren pits, Leclerc gets out, Norris gets out. But then what happens is that Russell comes through and he's in between Leclerc and Norris. And like that is the
Yeah.
worst that's the worst possible scenario, right?
Yeah.
Granted, he overtook him like a lap or two later, but still,
Mm,
like just ate up
yeah.
time there.
The only thing that I could imagine as being a reason is that maybe they thought that Ferrari would have a worse pit stop and they could get Norris effectively pass him in the pit lane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, that's the only thing I could think of
Yeah.
that would be a possibility. Or maybe they just didn't anticipate that Russell was going to be that close that soon.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll just pit them both, pit him with Leclerc, and basically allow him to essentially just like just beat him on track. You know, just be like, hey, rather than trying to play this long game, let's just like come out at the same time and see who's got the, you know, better on tires, because they I think McLaren probably believed that they were faster than the Ferraris. You know,
Sure.
so
Sure.
that's the only thing. But I think that yeah, Russell was probably just something that happened that they didn't anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a gamble. You know, every
Yeah.
pit is sort of a gamble that you're taking. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, well, speaking of Russell, he knows how to throw that in that car. I don't know what it is.
Russell Tussle.
Russell Tussle, the Tusslin Rustlin. That sounds like a nice like boxer name from like the 1910s.
And here comes the Tussle Russell. Come here, boy. Yeah.
And he gives him a nice 1-2 to the face, and he wins for
Gives him
Britain.
the 1-2 to the fez. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Russell drives like somebody that has something to prove, and
Hmm.
Lewis is driving like he is not just not happy.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I
and
think that is the main difference.
I think they you really see it. It's weird, but
Hmm.
you really kind of see it in how their how their performances are, how they're not that Lewis is driving slowly,
Hmm.
but I just think that he yeah, I'm not sure he has a lot of confidence left. You know.
And I think it's confidence in the car, confidence in the team. It's a mix of things. Like, and
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's a bummer because it would be nice if he has a really good showing before he goes to Ferrari. But
Mm.
um, yeah, I don't know. I can you feel for him, you know?
You do. I think that he'll have some sort of moment where he'll be able to I think pull out a result somewhere, but
Yeah,
it's just going to be tough to know exactly when and where that is. I mean,
yeah.
like any time that anything like that is going to happen, it's going to have to be a place where Red Bull is at a really like low, like at a real disadvantage,
Hmm.
or at some place where some other team has just some crazy advantage that like anybody else would have over
Right, right.
the other team. So like Singapore last year, like
Hmm.
that could be where another place where Red Bull just does not cannot participate or cannot produce results. So
Hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would say like one thing that I have noticed is that Lewis does not seem to be particularly happy with his crew when you hear him on the radio.
Hmm.
It's weird. Like I was also thinking, when was the last time you heard somebody tell him, "Okay, it's hammer time"? You know what I
Dude,
mean?
it's been like what, 2
It's
seasons?
been a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It is a weird thing. It does feel like Lewis is sort of. You can almost feel the slow divorce happening, or
Hmm.
like the slow breakup happening with between him and Mercedes. Like it just doesn't feel like it's his team anymore.
Hmm.
It's weird to say because it's like Lewis and Mercedes. I mean, that is like such a embedded concept of like
Hmm.
idea or like
Yeah.
lineup that it feels weird to think that, oh yeah, no, this is not going to last
Yeah.
like hardly at all
Hmm. Hmm.
more. So
I mean,
uh,
Schumacher Ferrari ended, right? I mean,
it's true,
it
yeah.
all eras come to an end, and it's the same with Max and Red Bull. I know as much as people are bored with everything going on right now, this will end, right? This will end
Yeah,
eventually. Red Bull cannot be firing on all cylinders and be perfect forever. Same with
yeah,
Max,
right.
so it's just a matter of like appreciating them while they're here,
Yeah,
so.
and then hopefully there will be a tight battle between a couple different manufacturers, but
Hmm.
there's also just the chance that it's going to be one team dominating over everybody else's typically seems to be pretty high in this modern era of F1.
Yeah.
So, but who knows? Maybe that's McLaren. It would be cool if it was McLaren, but it would also be cool if it was Ferrari coming back. So I don't
Hmm.
know. Like, who knows what it'll be,
Yeah.
who it will be, but
Yeah.
and also who knows when it's going to show up.
Right.
It could be another couple seasons.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of people dominating, let's talk about V-Carb and Tsunoda. Bro, he is just like, I mean, and I don't mean that necessarily that he's like dominating Danny Rick, because I feel that that does Danny Rick a major disservice.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
Danny Rick is still a strong driver. He's just had a
Uh-huh.
couple of bad showings, and we'll see how that goes the rest of the season. But Tsunoda on these overtakes, dude,
Yeah,
what?
really intense places, like on the
Man,
outside of S curves. Like
yes,
yeah, oof. That was some really bold moves, but
dude, he's
I think
putting
he
on a
was fired
clinic.
up.
Hmm.
He was fired up. He had confidence in the car, in
Yep,
front of his home crew. That like pit stop scramble where there was like six cars
dude,
that came in and then flew
yes.
out. Oh man, that was exciting to see.
That was intense. I love it. I love what these
And
regs
he
have done
thanked
to the
his team
midfield.
too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he thanked his team for that pit stop, which is
Yeah.
like, oh hell yeah.
He said top job, and I love that. I think I'm gonna start saying top job myself. Hey,
Top
top
job.
job, guys. Top job.
Top job. Yeah, well, I would agree. Like, Danny Ricardo, just like the accident that happened with him. I mean, that was
Oh
just
man, he went way too wide, dude.
he went wide.
Like,
Like I think like the consensus I think was that he was paying too much attention to Stroll coming up on the inside, and I think he was trying to
why?
jump into the racing line,
Yeah.
to kind of cover him off, and then he just caught out Albon. And
Hmm.
oh god, yeah, when that Williams crashed, I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, guys,
Yeah.
this can't keep happening to you.
Yeah.
You have to have cars to compete with. Like, you can't just show up with one car again.
Yeah.
That would be very, 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 very bad. Um, but yeah, I feel bad for Danny, especially like at the beginning of the restart. He's sitting there looking at the screens. You could see it in his expression, like he was really dejected
Oh yeah.
that this was happening. And then right behind him was Liam Lawson, like just also staring at the screen. I'm just
Yep.
like, oh no. Um, I feel really bad for him. And I do genuinely hope that they let him finish out this season at least, and not just like pull him halfway through and swap him with Lawson. I mean, I
Hmm.
really hope that doesn't happen because, uh, I mean, for one, Red Bull can't keep doing that because it's nonsense.
Hmm.
But also at the same time, like Danny deserves to have, like, he deserves to be able to perform. He to get the chance to perform. So, um, Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with RB there, but yeah, Yuki had a great race in front of his home crowd,
Hmm.
pulling off some really bold moves. And I think honestly proving that like, hey, like I can compete, I know how to do this. Like,
Right. Like put some respect on my name, because honestly, like, people slander Yuki.
they
People slander
sleep on him
Yuki.
too, man.
Yeah, they sleep on
Like,
him. They slander Danny. Um, I think V Carb is one of the more interesting teams to watch just because of the team dynamics, and because this is going to determine, I think, both of their careers going forward, right?
yeah,
Like Danny Rick is going to go one of two ways. He's either going to step up, and then he is going to be that guy for the next Red Bull seat opening,
hmm
or he's not going to show up at all, and then he's out, right? That's what I think it'll be.
I think if yeah, I think that if RB has a really if Ricardo has a pretty terrible season, like if it continues to be sort of an abysmal season for him
Yeah,
and he makes it through to the end and they still give him the Red Bull seat, I'm gonna call that a travesty.
yeah,
Because Yuki is if we're doing like a who deserves the seat based on performance, then it's
yeah,
Yuki all day.
yep.
Unless Danny Ricardo pulls out like 3 wins towards the end of the year, then I'd be like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
But like even still, like I think Yuki, I feel like is starting to get stuck at RB,
Yep.
V carb. I think that he definitely needs to move up or move on,
Yeah. Yeah,
because him being going backwards would be terrible.
yeah. He's like he's like a townie right now, right? Like, he needs to get out of there. He needs to go
Hmm.
chase his dream somewhere else, because if they're gonna disrespect you like this, then no.
No, no,
Yeah.
this ain't it. This ain't it. Yeah.
Another thing that wasn't it was Lance Stroll's comment, and I have it here. This is
Yeah.
what he
Okay.
said. I'll do it in my best voice for him. It's unbelievable how bad our speed is on the straight, man. Like, it's a different category.
Yeah. Hey, let me try one. Let me try one. Oh, it's unbelievable how bad our speed is on the straight, man. Eh? It's a different category.
Dude, what was that? Like,
Uh, well, it
that
does
was
remind me. It does remind me a little bit of like Alonso saying GP3 engine or whatever, in Japan when he was racing in Honda
but
and McLaren.
but he made it sound
Um,
suave though, right? He's like, "What is the GP2 engine?" And he's like kind of cheeky
yeah, I
about it. You know
mean,
what I mean?
well, he was like he was frustrated there. But here's the difference: like Alonso's teammate at the time, I think, which is Stoffel Van Dorn, maybe.
Yes, yeah.
Um, they were both slow.
Yeah, thank you.
So like the
Thank
difference
you.
here is that Alonso was up in P6 and
Right.
Lance was like
P11.
under, yeah, he was
He
like
finished
out
P12.
of the points. Like so you cannot say that Lance has like a worse car than Fernando, because it's
Yeah.
like, dude, I like, I'm just gonna say it. His dad owns the team. You think his
Yeah.
dad is gonna let the engineers screw over his son? No. Like he doesn't have some
Yeah.
B spec version of the car that Alonso's
There's
driving.
no way.
Like they've got the same car, man. Like, and he still, it just can't. Maybe it's just not the right vehicle. Like, I don't know. Like, would he be better in a different car that performs differently? I mean, I don't know,
Hmm.
but it's not the car's problem. It's really not. So,
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really thought he had turned a new leaf this year, but he has just shown that, like, he just says like a lot of like bratty things and does a lot of bratty
uh
things,
huh. Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, like, don't like. I don't even know if you need to say that over the radio. You can talk to your team about it afterwards, just be like, look, this engine is not really doing it for us, right? Like, or I feel like the engine's not doing it for us. And it might be an issue where like his engine like performance maps were like off or something, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm kind of just done.
Yeah.
Like,
He
it's
gets.
like
He
a
could.
complaint after complaint after complaint.
Yeah. I mean, he could have just said no power. You know what I mean? Like, or like
Yeah.
maybe not no power, because then that would sound like he was
Yeah.
like
He's like, I'm
retarded.
not getting as
Maybe
much
like,
power
oh,
out of
like,
this as I thought it
or
would
maybe
be.
just say like, oh, like, I thought we'd be faster on the straights, or like, oh,
Hmm.
like, we're pretty slow down the streets. I can't catch up. You know, like that's all he really had to say. But it's just like, yeah, it feels just, yeah, it just feels the way the delivery is just feels less. It doesn't feel productive, and
Hmm.
that's the annoying part.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I don't know what to say about Stroll that hasn't already been said. I'm waiting for him to do another really stupid, rude, or like mean move or action towards one of his engineers or
Yeah.
team members. That again, that just
Yeah.
puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah. Like you can be defeated and you can be sad and down about things, but like you don't take it out on your team, you know? Like
No.
that just shows that you're not part of the team. That
Yeah.
means that signals to me that you think you're on a different level, you're on a different
Hmm.
pedestal or something, and your team is here. They exist to just help you, and that's it. Like you aren't
Yeah.
helping them. Like that's not
Right.
cool.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, let's move on to Sauber really quick. So yeah, it seems like their nut problems are maybe mostly behind them,
I don't know.
but really the solution is not ideal. Just
Yeah.
like having extra nuts in your hand and slowing down your pit stops to make sure they go on properly.
All right.
You're losing a lot of time and performance.
Yeah.
So your pit stops are just basically garbage,
Yeah.
guaranteed, and that's not
To
great.
to quote the great scholar of our time, Christian Horner from DTS season 5, fix your effing car. I believe that's what he said. So
If
yeah.
you got a problem, change your effing car. No, you change your car.
So
Um,
you want to go, bro?
man,
I
Total
would pay
Wolf
to
in
see a
high school would
boxing
have
match.
been hilarious.
Dude, I know.
Like you just see him because he's like, oh no, you tell your driver it's It's just like, oh my God. Um, yeah, no,
Mom,
it
where's my
was,
bologna sandwich? Where's my? I asked for bologna. This is PB&J.
um, it was, Botas was putting out some moves, trying to make some positions, which was good, but um, yeah, Zhou Guan Yu continues to just be almost invisible, and it's
Dude,
you
so
know
sad.
the next race is the Chinese Grand Prix, so maybe he'll have some hometown, home country sort of you know uh what is it morale, like
Some
a
morale
boost,
boost. Yeah.
then maybe he'll get some good results, like who knows,
Some
like
Brondo.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, but like, yeah, he just continues to sort of just not perform in any way that shows that he's, I mean, I don't know, maybe he's just stuck in a bad car, but at the same time, it's like you can try and do something with it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on there,
Yeah.
but, and Botas just continues to be so likable that everybody wants him there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, dude, he's great. He's great.
he's a multiple race winner,
Yeah.
so there's no reason why he can't be in the
Mm-hmm.
sport. He's got a better record than some of the other drivers that are getting a lot of attention.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
um,
Uh, and some other drivers that are getting lots of attention. Let's talk about our JV lacrosse team, boys, over at Alpine. Um, or field hockey. It'd be like
Gasly
lacrosse or
and Ocon.
it's they had this weird rivalry, and honestly, I think it's more from Ocon's side than Gasly. I don't think Gasly
Yeah,
cares.
I don't think he does. I really don't think he cares. I
I
think
just,
Ocon's like, I hate him. He is
yeah,
my enemy, and Gasly's just like, hey, what is up,
yeah,
Esteban? Like, yeah, it's weird. It definitely feels very one sided.
yeah. But so there, I think it was during the, I forget if it was a race restart, um, where after Ricardo went wide into Albon and he DNF'd both both himself and Albon, um, that Gasly, I mean, it was like pack racing at that point. So Gasly kind of tapped Ocon on the side, and like
Mhm.
Ocon comes on the radio. He's like, "Gasly just hit me. Check the car." It just had a tinge of like elitism to it. The way he
Mhm.
said it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's
Gasly hit me. Check the car. Yeah,
I sure will be having words with him later. You know?
we will have it. We will hash it out on the yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
I, mm,
I don't even know if it mattered too, because like looking at the standings, Ocon finished
yeah,
15th, Gasly was 16th.
honestly, I feel like Ocon is comes across as a teacher's pet to me. Because he once again during qualifying was
Yeah.
like super like screaming all ecstatic because he made it through to Q2.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like even the commentators were like, "Yep,
Yeah.
another celebration for getting into Q2,"
Mm-hmm.
like because it just feels very like it feels very weird. It's kind of like, teacher shows up and it's just like, okay, we got a quiz for you. And then so the one kid goes, oh, yeah, awesome, pop
Yeah.
quiz. Good job, Mr. Smith. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
So
okay, kid, we get it. You're trying
yeah.
to suck up to the teacher for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. Um, and that's the vibes I'm getting from Ocon. I mean, he's trying to butter up his lacrosse coach for some reason. Maybe he's worried he's
Yeah.
going to lose his job, and so he's
Maybe.
acting super extra, like invested in the team to
Mm-hmm.
like hopefully then they'll be like, Ocon likes us, so we're going to keep him. It's like I don't think that's how F1 works, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
uh let's see. So I think all we have left is just Haas and Williams. And I mean,
mhm.
honestly, the only thing really to say about both those guys, Williams, yeah, gutted for Albon. Really was really a victim of circumstance there.
Mhm.
Danny Rick just should not have gone that wide. Sargent was running actually a fairly decent race until he went off,
Yep.
and then he reversed onto the track. And the last thing I really wanted to say was just
Mhm.
about Haas. And I want to hear your thoughts on the Sargent thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Magnussen, it seems like he does a little bit of weaving a lot, right? Like it's been a pattern
Yeah.
the last couple of seasons I've noticed.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Oh, Sergeant backing up on the track. Yeah, that's dangerous.
Hmm.
But I think it's at this point. I think it's like, um, maybe there'd be more damage if he had left it beached. Maybe he was just really trying to get some sort of results for the team or some try
Hmm.
and work in. So I think at this point, Williams, any time on track is so precious and valuable to
Yeah.
them right now. So that would be my only reason why. I think he would. He had to do what he did. But yeah.
Hmm.
Haas, yeah, Magnuson weaving. Magnuson, I think is just I don't think he cares anymore. I think he's got the senioritis. Like, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think he's just like, all right, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Weaving. I'm in a Haas. This is,
Hmm. Hmm.
Hulkenberg's beating me every time.
Hmm.
Whatever. Like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be the bad boy. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe this is this is his way of quiet quitting. Um,
I
like
hate that
just
term. I hate that term too, because
I
it literally
know,
just means like you doing the job that you pay me to do. Like,
or like doing less of that job just so that like they will fire you rather than like
mhm.
you quitting yourself because you don't want to.
Mm.
That's kind of what it feels like. He's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna be reckless, I don't care, like, let's just, I'm bored. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from Magnuson on that one. So
Mm.
well, I don't know if it's true, but
Yeah.
he's got a kid, he's got a life, he can
Yeah.
do something else.
That's the thing. Priorities in life have changed. Hulkenberg has a kid too, though, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, he's cleaning up. So I don't know what's going
Right.
on for him. Um, okay, so I think right now it's time for a podium vibe check. Um, podium vibes.
Yeah.
Um, Suzuka is always fun. The drivers always put on a great show, and it was a fun race. As expected, performance-wise from Red Bull, Mercedes, they did what I thought they would do. I was
Mhm.
surprised to see Ferrari. Not all Ferrari. Sainz did a great job. I was surprised to see Leclerc kind of struggling a bit,
Mhm.
not being able to really make up the pace and performance and ground on Sainz that I thought he would
Mhm.
have.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that like this feels like a very special race weekend. Um, and sometimes I know like motivations, because this is the 10-year anniversary of Jules Bianchi's
Yeah.
passing at Suzuka,
Mhm.
right? So he was wearing
Yeah.
a special helmet for him and everything, and that was really nice.
Mhm.
And that this will sound this is not to diminish it or anything. Typically things like this happen, and there's always like a weird storyline of like, oh, this is gonna push him to perform even better and everything, and like
Mhm.
that wasn't there. Um,
No.
and like the two really should be split, right?
Right.
But yeah, he just wasn't really here this weekend. It seemed like, and I don't
Yeah.
know why that is because Leclerc's a really good driver. I just was surprised to not see him kind of lay it down, especially after how Sainz laid it down last
Mhm.
race.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Tsunoda, I'm really impressed. I'm really happy to see him perform. This is the best performance I think we've seen from Tsunoda so far, and I think there's even more to come. Um, and yeah, that's it. So thank you, Suzuka, for a great race this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I echo a lot of that. maybe Leclerc. Maybe Leclerc, maybe Jules was on his mind, and that was just kind of putting him
Mm-hmm.
in a weird place, and it just kind of kept him off his rhythm a little bit. That's possible. Um, but also, I'm just not sure how confident he is with the Ferrari right now. I think
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
maybe the chassis just fits Carlos better. Maybe Carlos just feels like he has more that he has to prove to the team, and Leclerc just feels too secure, and so he's not taking risks or not
Yeah.
trying to perform as much. I mean, he's just in a weird spot right now.
Right.
So, who knows? Like, I think a podium or a win would definitely boost his confidence a bit, and
Yeah.
so I do hope for that for him.
Yeah.
Um,
He needs it.
yeah, and then yeah, Yuki continuing to be like my new favorite on the track here.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many solid performances, just continuing to put in the results,
Just killing it.
and yeah, just killing it. And yeah, we really need to come up with a name for his fan base.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna have to brainstorm it, but also do a social media post. We'll post about it. We'll ask y'all out there what you think
Mm-hmm.
about what they could be called, because he deserves it. He deserves a solid fan base at this point.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, hey everyone, thanks for listening to F1 F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, you can find us on Instagram, IG, TikTok, TT, YouTube, YT, and X Twitter, XT. All at F1 or F Off. The one is the number one. Email us at F1 or F Off podcast at gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review or 4.5 wherever you listen to your podcast. That really helps us out a lot. And be sure to share with your family and friends and occasionally your enemies. Let them know about
yeah,
us.
yeah, share it to Lance Stroll. Let him know. Let him feel the hurt and the hate that we throw at him.
It's unbelievable how bad our speed is on the street, man. Like it's a different category. Oh my goodness, dude.
So bad.
Oh my
See
god.
you later. What's what is Ash Ketchum's?
Oh, from Poke. Yeah.
What's he say? Smell you
Yeah.
later.
Smell you
Like,
later.
yeah, yeah. It's I imagine Lance leaving the race like panicked every day. Smell you later, guys. He
Dude,
gets in his helicopter.
so Lance Stroll is the Gary of the F1 grid. That's
Yes.
amazing. You know, we probably
Yeah.
should do like a gym leader, a Pokemon trainer episode where we just like pair up characters like easily. Gary is Lance Stroll. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, for
all
sure.
right. Thanks, y'all.
Peace.